I got to deal with this morning because God is speaking to America in this hour. Sometimes he speaks from the house of prayer. Other times he has to speak from the House of Representatives. Hopefully the house of prayer will hook up with the faith that we feel coming from the House of Representatives, and we can have some help in all of our houses. God is speaking to America in this moment, and God is asking us, do you want to be the only industrialized nation that has not found a way to provide a basic human right? Health care for every American, health care for every citizen, health care for every man, woman, boy, or girl. What kind of nation do you want to be? And I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm embarrassed to have to admit that I live in a country where people are required to get insurance on their cars, but have no insurance on the people who are driving the cars. What's wrong with us? We can do better than that. We're better than that. We're America. God bless us. God bless us with some sense and some sanity and some sense of priorities. God bless America. So I see this beggar who was broke and sick. And that's not a New Testament condition. That's not just a first century condition. That's a 21st century condition. In America in this moment, I tell you, I know you've been to Morehouse and Spelman and Princeton and Harvard. I know you got all of those degrees on the wall. I know you drove in from the suburbs in your fine car, rolling in on 22s. I know you got a few nickels in the bank. I know you think you somebody because you got a three-piece suit on and some alligator shoes. I know you feel good about yourself this morning, but I tell you what, you better not get sick. Because even if you have insurance, if you get sick enough for long enough, you'll end up broke. Folk asking us, can we afford to do this now? How can we afford not to do this now? 60% of the bankruptcies in America today are due to medical bills. Folk are losing their homes because they can't pay the medical bills. Folk are deciding between groceries and medicine. We can be better than that. If you're sick, you may end up broke. And if you're broke, there's not much for you if you get sick. And so I see this beggar laying there before the gate of the beautiful. And in the backdrop of this unfolding drama is the temple, the church. And that's why I brought this issue to church this morning. I didn't know what the Lord would do last night. I had no idea that we would be right here in this moment, but God is moving by his Spirit. There's a drama unfolding in this text, and there is a drama unfolding in the world, and in the backdrop is the church of Jesus Christ, and God is calling us to this moment. Do you hear God? Do you see this lame, broke man? He's laying at the gate called the Beautiful. And scholars have all kinds of archaeological explanations regarding this gate of the Beautiful. I'm not going to bother you with all of that this morning. It doesn't matter where that gate was located or who built that gate. The fact of the matter is, most often you can't see it, but in front of our churches, the problem with us is that often there is a beautiful gate. And outside of the beautiful gate, there's an ugly situation. And there's no connection between our beautiful talk on the inside and the mess that's going on the outside. The problem with folk who live inside of gates in front of our churches, the gates we build in front of our communities. I'm not hating on those of you who live in a gated community. I'm talking about a mindset this morning. What I need you to recognize is that there are some conditions for which there are no gated communities. I'm so sick and tired of all of these folk talking about socialistic medicine. You're giving in to socialism. And I really get upset when I hear Christians in the midst of this debate talking about socialism. They ought to go back and read Acts chapter 2, where the Bible says that the church had all things in common. We don't have all things in common, but certainly we have some things in common, and there are some things that you can't build a gate around. Folk talking as if they know what they're talking about, using words and labels instead of engaging in analysis. You don't solve the problem simply by calling something socialism. There are some things that we have in common. We don't ask people to buy their own police protection, their own fire protection. We decided long ago that we ought to pool our resources and pick up everybody's garbage so that free enterprise can take place. There are some things we have in common. There are some things you can't protect yourself from by living inside of a gate. When H1N1 breaks out, all of a sudden people forget about socialized medicine and they go and try to get a vaccine wherever they can get it, however they can get it, whenever they can get it. They'll stand in a long line. They'll leave their gated community and make their way to a free clinic in order to get an H1N1 vaccine. So the church needs to ask itself, are we going to spend the next few days while this debate rages just hanging out inside the beautiful gate, listening to beautiful music, praying beautiful prayers, listening to a beautiful sermon, fellowshipping with all the beautiful people, hanging out in a beautiful sanctuary, while right outside of the gates there's an ugly situation? Homeless people, an ugly situation. Hungry people, an ugly situation. Broken people, an ugly situation. Our kids with their pants hanging down because their mind is hanging down. Their self-esteem is hanging down. Outside of the gates is an ugly situation. And so, can you see the brother hanging out there? I see him in my mind's eye. But one day, two preachers came walking through the gate. Two men of God, touched by the power of the Spirit, began walking through the gate. And the man began to look at them, hoping to receive something from them. And Peter said, "Look at us." I'm telling you that the fight is just beginning. We're going to encounter resistance to this bill in the Senate, and the world is saying to the church, what is your answer? And the church needs to be able to say to the world, well, look at us.